Hello, Vault Dwellers and Wastelanders. You are listening to Vault Broadcast, a podcast brought to you by the fine folks over here at Tales from Tomorrow. That's the name we give to our Fallout TTRPG series, and we've been looking to branch out. This summer, we are bringing you interviews with creators from all across the Fallout space, whether they make props, they do podcasts, anything of the like, and we welcome it to be open lines for any of you who want to give your thoughts on the Fallout universe. So at any point, you can leave a comment below. We could get in touch, join the Discord server. We'll get to talking, and maybe you could come by here. We've also got an app down there where you can submit your voice messages to us, and we could play those throughout the show. But without further ado, we're going to get on to the main guest for today, Edward Grimm Grinner, great podcaster, had an absolute blast with this interview. I hope you all will get in touch so that we can keep this series going, keep the door rotating with new people coming through, and make some good friends out there. Follow all of Edward's content, and let me know some creators you want to see interviewed below, whether that's you yourself or someone that you admire and adore, all the rest, we welcome it. Passing it to future Kyle. Hello, everybody. We are sitting down with one of our first interview guests here on Vault Broadcast. We have Edward from the Welcome to the Waste podcast and more. We're going to let Edward introduce himself. You might know him as Grimm Grinner, which is a wonderful name you've come up with. And this podcast series, I know you have more than one. It's just phenomenal. Welcome to the Waste. If people haven't gotten the chance to listen, we're going to have links to all of this below. But in today's episode, we're just going to get into the how, the where, the why, all of this came about. Edward, I appreciate you coming onto the show here. This is a community hub we're building for Fallout lovers and nerds alike, especially tech nerds. There's a lot of us here, fellow podcast producers and the rest. So why not come together and chat about our passions, our projects, our way to actually build it, the technical side. I know we got a lot of people out there that like hearing what software is being used, what motivates these decisions. So without me rambling and just gushing on about you, I want to say thank you, welcome to the show, and how are you feeling today?
Well, first off, I want to say thank you for having me. This is actually my first kind of guest appearance in this kind of context on a podcast or show of any kind. So thank you for having me. I'm doing okay. Just vibing. Finally got over a writer's block, so I'm right back in it. So.
Well, I'm glad to have you for this. I mean, I'll pull back the curtain a little and say you're a very first guest for the show. It's just been something that is really fun. I presented this idea for it to the community, and people really latched on. And it's helped so much already in finding your content. Just putting out that call to the community and saying what fellow creators want to talk. I got your podcast and a couple others that, admittedly, bad discovery guy here. I might not have found it otherwise. So why don't we open it up and let you maybe talk a bit about the background of it? You've built your own version of the Fallout Wasteland in Ontario, really fleshed it out. So what inspired that setting for you, and how did it evolve into the Welcome to the Waste podcast?
So building kind of my own version of the Wasteland in Ontario started out, funny enough, it actually started with the Fallout 4 release. I remember being there with a couple of friends and at the time a partner, and kind of pitching this idea of like, what if there was almost like a Three Dog, but in Ronto, instead of just in like the US part of the Wasteland. And I kind of sat on it for a long time, and then the pandemic hit. And a lot of life changes happened in that time, and I didn't really have much else to do. So I went back to that idea and I started writing. And what started first as something very Fallout centric for me, kind of evolved as I wrote and as I came up with the character and plots to turn at least Welcome to Wastes into its own kind of entity that pulls a little bit from Fallout, a little bit from like Mad Max, a little bit from like other post-apocalyptic media that I enjoy. And since then, it's just become that, mostly from me writing what I know. I love kind of going on road trips with family and friends and exploring Ontario. And picking up stories and putting them in where I can kind of find them.
It clearly shows that you have this passion to expand the known aspects. I believe in my little research before the show and in learning about Ronto, that there's not very much mention of that in Fallout. I'd seen that it was maybe mentioned in Fallout 3 in relation just to some kind of phrases about it. Did that?
Yeah.
Did you make that connection beforehand, or how did that work out?
I did make that connection beforehand. I had played Fallout 3 and I loved that one little reference. And ever since, I've just kind of sat on it and been like, I would really love to see more. I know from what I've heard from fan communities and apparently people in the know that they may never approach it in the canon games, but that just widens it up to be more of a fan thing done out of love. So
For sure. One of the things we talk about around here on our other podcasts and such is how the Fallout universe has that great amount of empty space. Like we have tales, little snippets of areas, but it leaves a really great open canvas for storytellers to extrapolate on, again, just loose messaging. We do a little bit of that with the Appalachia area in our TTRPG. Bethesda has areas that are off the map, but you can kind of see it's just vague, and so I'm sure, you know, as a fellow person interested in that as well, TTRPGs. I want to get to that a little bit later throughout you talking about your ideas for your own. But I'm sure that has a good deal of it, that you have that creative flexibility to jump in there, make stories that are completely unique, and as a fellow fan, it feels extremely authentic.
thank you. Yeah, that's where it's gotten really fun. Like that's why through doing Welcome to the Waste and kind of doing my own storytelling world, then spinning off and doing Double Radio and having it be so much in the Fallout world, being able to use things that I know were kind of already established. But also having to do my own research, considering for Double, I've set it at a point in time that really hasn't established certain games. So like stuff in Fallout New Vegas hasn't happened yet, where I am in the story. So I have to be really cautious about what I mention to try to keep it in universe as much as possible.
That is a wonderful observation and call out there, the specific time periods, because I'm only assuming that you may follow a lot of the news for the TV series, but of course that's a popular discussion within the community, is what has changed and not. And I'm a guy that at heart I balance between being like I don't want to say a lore purist, because I respect lore. I love it for its authenticity, but I've never been someone that gets too worked up about changes and edits. I like to try and understand the creative process. You know, different people come through and they work on it, and we're building a community, sort of patchwork, a quilt, if you will. And so I would ask, are there any like local landmarks, that pieces of Canadian history that you really tried to wastelandify, put into the show, and any highlights that may have stood out to you?
So funny enough, with Welcome to the Waste, one of my earliest episodes is an episode called Wasteland Ghost Story. And it discussed something called the Ghost Road, which is an actual kind of ghost legend out of, I believe it's Port Perry, here in Ontario, of a road where an unfortunate motorcyclist spun out and suffered a horrible fate, and now continues to drive down that road every night. And so I kind of wastelandified that, had it be told by this kind of ghostly spectral character. And then other things like in Welcome to the Waste, there is the GAT, or the GAT, which is the general Toronto area, but just switch two of the letters. And it's just kind of what used to be Toronto and the surrounding cities kind of encompassed in one. But I think the more fun I'm having is right now with Double Radio, the fact that it's taking place more in Ronto specifically, I've had a lot of fun digging into like urban legends and stuff and different bits of lore of just the city I live in and have lived in for 20 years now. And kind of finding ways to wastelandify things. Like my partner brought up, because she used to live in a different neighborhood from me, and one of the legends in her neighborhood was this cryptid like monster that lived in the sewer tunnels nearby. And one man saw this creature and it spun off into a whole urban legend. And I'm like, okay, what can I do with that and how can I wasteland it?
I love that stuff. Urban legends, local myths and stories. Absolutely fascinating to me. I was sort of podcasting along that vein a couple years ago. A friend and I were exploring, actually, this was during COVID. We were exploring the paranormal in a podcast and sort of tracking down urban legends to their roots. So when you say this, it just, it just has me grinning ear to ear. No wonder why I enjoyed the show so much. And I'm sorry to take it away from Double Double just to go back a moment, but I mean, I think that's even a great episode name you were just talking about with Ghost Road. Like that, somehow in my podcast feed when I was going through and listening to your episodes, I must have skipped that one, but it caught my eye so quickly. I'm like, I didn't hear this, and I went and listened, and I was like, yeah, this is great. And for people at home, these are short snippets on Welcome to the Waste. I mean, maybe you could tell them instead of me just taking an educated guess. How long do these episodes average? They're mostly 5 to 10 minutes about.
Yeah, somewhere in there. I think I kind of averaged it out. Like most episodes are, especially the newer season, I've managed to have them hit an average of about 7 or 8 minutes. So they're fairly bite-sized, which makes it easy to listen to a whole bunch on like a commute to work or something like that.
Yeah, I tapped select, 5 episodes, add to queue, and just I was listening to those before bed the other night, which is, I think, great, folks. I mean, these are great kind of wind down episodes at the end of the night. It's something I really appreciate in the Fallout community is people doing these radio dramas, if I could call it that.
Yeah.
Like you said, tossing back to Three Dog and everything. I think in our very screen heavy world we live in, it's nice to kind of shut the screen off, sit back, listen to something you love. And it's something I feel, it almost surprises me that there's not more official radio dramas that come out of Bethesda and the like, just to say that we do get some throughout the shows, but I'm always wanting more, and hence your podcast and others fill that gap very, very nicely. So let's maybe get into talking a little bit. I'd like to hear more about Double Double from you, of course. But I'm curious as to this creative process. I myself am someone who's getting into balancing more than one podcast. So I might ask, how do you handle doing this? And are you still doing them fairly equally? I consider I'm the whole way back listening to the 2020 catalog from you. So do forgive me a little bit for the 2025 and such. But are you putting them both out simultaneously? What's that workflow for you?
So to make things a little easier on myself, recently with Double Double being in there now, for Welcome to the Waste, I got myself kind of into a rhythm over the past couple years of kind of taking a few days every couple of weeks and just sitting and writing nonstop, and then recording nonstop, and then editing nonstop, and then queuing everything up and just kind of having it set on like every other Wednesday, kind of as a release schedule for myself. That way I could kind of just sit and do a whole bunch of episodes in one go, and then have them up there and available for release so that I could focus on continuing to write and continuing to build. And then with doing Double Double Radio now, as like an extra second project, that one, I've set that one a slightly further release schedule. So like every 4 weeks, on a different Wednesday, so that I don't have the episodes overlap and I don't have both of my podcasts trying to compete with each other. And so it's kind of turned into this interesting way of like, when I do sit down for a writing day, I'm sitting going, okay, what episodes do I need to write for Welcome to the Waste, and what ones do I need to write for Double Double, so that I can kind of split as much balance between the two as possible. Yeah.
Makes total sense. Yeah, trying not to get your shows to compete with each other. It's both fun, in my opinion, to do the symbiotic growth of them. I think it's always very nice as a creator, or at least an audio creator, video creator. It feels nice to have a second project to point people to, and I think it also.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, I can only speak anecdotally, but I think it also gives our brain a little bit of that creative difference. Like it's great to hyper focus on a project. I love it. But then also when you do get that second outlet, even if it's a small switch, it's just nice to have either a different tone or cadence or anything to that. It just switches up our brain, I think, in a really nice way. And you're someone that has great audio production throughout those episodes. Like it sounds highly professional audio drama. So I would ask, is there any specific software you use to accomplish that?
So funny enough, when I started doing this, originally I wanted to do like voice acting during the pandemic, during lockdowns. And so I went searching for kind of a cheaper end software that I could find. I was looking for something that I could download for free to start. And a lot of the big ones, I'm like, oh, you get like 30 days free trial, and then you have to pay like $200 for the licensing. And I found one called Wavepoint, and oh wait, I'm messing up the names, and I have them right down here.
You're totally okay.
Yeah, WavePad and MixPad are the two softwares I use by NCH Software, and they're fairly like simplistic. They're really easy to use. Like you record, I can record in WavePad and then toss it over to MixPad and layer my tracks, put in my sound effects, put in my ambience, that kind of stuff. And WavePad has like a bunch of like very interesting filters that I can put on everything. So yeah, that's what I've used this whole time. And I feel like my production value may only go up as I'm going to be going back to school in the fall for sound production and sound design. So
that's phenomenal. That is so cool. I saw that. I forget where I saw it off the top of my head. Maybe you sent that in one of the form submissions or somewhere. But going to school for that, when I was, that was in my mind while I was listening to the episodes. I'm like, he's going to be going professionally and into that, academically into that. And you're already going in with such, in my opinion, a leg up. I'm not new to the podcasting space myself, and I really do. I'm not trying to flatter you overly, but just to say that you've got a great base, and then you're going to take this and learn about it in an even more detailed and rigorous environment. That's a heck of a portfolio to be walking in the door with. So
thank you.
You said that's in the fall, right? You're going?
Yep. I start school in September. I'm just sorting out like student loans and stuff right now. So,
oh, fun. You know, we love those around here.
Oh yeah.
Nothing makes education more fun than panicking about how you're going to pay for it. So similar question, I suppose, or off of that, riffing off of that idea, that this is by the sounds of it, a one-man band. Is that right? Do you have any other people involved with producing this with you? This is all what it sounds like, very like grassroots sort of shoestring budget approach, starting it up. Has it grown to encompass any other people? Is that ever a plan of yours, or do you like doing a solo act? I'm always very interested to see the sort of behind the scenes for people's production in that sense.
It is still very much kind of like a one-man solo kind of thing. A lot of like all of the writing, most of the writing actually, not all of it. Most of the writing, most of the recording, all of the editing and putting it out there is still very much me. I got a tablet last summer, so a lot of the graphic design has now been more heavily me. I used to do a lot of stuff on my laptop just in Paint, and while it was great at the time, I feel like I've upped my game in terms of what I can design now. But I have had a lot of collaborative effort, uh, especially this past season for Welcome to the Waste. So the 2024 and 2025 season has very much been a lot of collaboration with, especially my partner. She voices Longshot, who is a character that is introduced, I think, the tail end of season 3, and has helped inspire numerous other characters and plot lines, and has helped me kind of take Grimm Grinner's hero journey in a very hopeful way. There was a point in time where a lot of the plot lines I were writing were very dark and very kind of foreboding and like not happy things. And since kind of working and writing and creating with a couple other people, it's kind of shifted the tone a little bit, which I really like. And actually, just recently, this past winter, I had my first crossover episode with a podcast by the name of Wasteland Free Radio, where we did a fun little crossover between our two shows, our two worlds. And that was a lot of fun to do.
That is so cool. I love a good crossover.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a very familiar podcast, and it may have crossed my path already. If, for all I know, I might be subscribed. Radio Free Wasteland, did you say was the name?
Wasteland Free Radio.
Wasteland Free Radio. Thank you. I had it backwards in my head. I'm pretty sure I've seen it. Now I got to go make sure to subscribe and search it out. I just love that. Your timelines, did they work out well for that sort of cross-pollination, or was that anything difficult for you guys to work with?
It wasn't that difficult. He understood that, like, at that point in time for me, I was going through a lot of job changes and a whole bunch of different things in my personal life at the time. So he took over the script writing, and like got my feedback on my character's involvement and the lines that we would be saying for it. But surprisingly, he also did a really good job at like listening to my show and capturing my character's voice. And then he sent me the script. We sat and recorded our lines. I did my own editing on my portion of it, and then he edited his portion. And then we kind of sat down, listened to each other's, saw how they fit together, and then did the final mix, and both released them on both of our podcast channels. So
that is super cool. Oh my gosh. I love hearing that process. That is very nice. I mean, I'm thinking from your perspective, sounds very nice that given your busy schedule at the time that you were able to get such an authentic script back, lines for your character. Grimm Grinner is, I mean, already within, I think I've listened to 10 plus at this stage, but going through it even that quickly, like Grimm Grinner has such a voice and a personality. Of course, I think that's what you want in a radio show host. So to capture that so well and authentically, I'm really happy to hear you had such a pleasant experience doing that. That sounds really fun to work with another creator in that way.
That was really great. Yeah, and we're even discussing potentially another crossover episode, maybe for Halloween this year. So,
as a Halloween lover, as a cryptid lover, I think this is just a lovely idea that I am excited for now. Plus, Halloween's such a great time in the Fallout universe. We got all the decorations still left around, so the vibe is always there a little bit. Halloween 24/7 in the Wasteland. I think we've kind of talked a little bit about this already, especially in your workflow sort of approach. But is there anything in particular about your approach that's changed significantly from your first episodes to your most recent episodes?
Yeah, the writing and recording and everything ahead of time has definitely changed. I think the first season was very the episodes kind of released very sporadically. They weren't as tightly on a schedule as I wanted at the time. And I think that was just because basically I would write an episode, I would sit and record it, and then I would edit it and go, okay, it goes up at midnight. Uh, and it was very like down to the wire for quite a few of them, as well as like coming up with an idea off the top of my head, doing it up and releasing it right away. Was a lot of the rhythm at that point. And then sometime around season 3 was where I kind of hit my stride, and it's become this kind of thing where I'm able to produce a few episodes, like 5 or 6, set them on their schedule, and then take a breather for a little bit. Um, which is why I ended up taking a bit of a longer hiatus after the end of the most recent season than I expected, because I initially did that being like, oh, I can take a bit more of a breather because I've been nonstop releasing for 2 years. I was like, oh, I'll take a break. And then writer's block hit, and I went, oh no. Uh, but now I'm kind of getting back on it. I'm getting back into the thick of it. I think I've got 4 or 5 more episodes written for the upcoming season, as well as more broadcasts for Double Double, which is a bit more of a fun process to put it all together again.
I certainly commiserate with that idea that it can be both very fun to be in that fast-paced lane where you're constantly working and you're constantly doing, and you try and take a break for yourself. But then on the flip side, that break can, like you said, turn into a writer's block, and I find myself having a bit of a hard time. It's almost like overcorrecting in a driving situation, where hard to cut out how much personal time you need in your life versus creative time. And honestly, I think a lot of the expectations we have from various platforms and various algorithms and stuff really push us in certain directions. I mean, I'm a guy that loves a release schedule too, but we're an instant gratification world, right? People want what they want when they want it, and oftentimes, if you take a hiatus, people start to forget about things. So I can just say I personally commiserate with how that can be a bit jarring to get back and forth in those sort of mental tracks.
Oh yeah.
Now I saw in the submission we were doing that you are interested in TTRPG in the Fallout universe, and as a fellow host of TTRPG content, I gotta pick your brain and nerd about this for a while. Would you like to tell the audience a little bit about your ideas for TTRPG? I believe you want to set this in Ronto, which would make sense. Do you have any kind of themes for it, timeline, anything like that you'd like to share with people out there?
It's still kind of very bare bones at the moment. But what I've been kind of working on is, and it's kind of helped with doing the podcast side of things, is figuring out like my map. That's kind of been like my first step, is figuring out all the different locations that my players could go to, especially around Ronto. There's so many little landmarks that I through just looking at maps of my own town, there's so many things that I could send them to, and so many locations where I could hide a mystery vault or hide something interesting, all this kind of stuff. So I've been kind of very much working on that, as well as taking kind of pre-existing content that's been released, like the main book, the Winter of Adam campaign, stuff like that, and reading them over and seeing what things can I kind of reskin almost. So like one thing, for example, is in Ronto's version of the Fallout RPG, there's not going to be mole rats, but there are going to be scav pandas, which are just mutated raccoons.
I thought that's where that was going.
Yeah. And stuff like that. So like it's being able to kind of figure out what stat blocks can work for a new creature, but still kind of shift them enough to make it something unique, has been kind of my process. And then just kind of sitting working on that while figuring out how many players I want to have with it, because a lot of my roommate runs a couple different D&D campaigns, one being our like house campaign with us and a bunch of friends. And so I'm kind of working with him on figuring out, okay, is there like a Sunday coming up that he doesn't feel like running a game, and I can have our same group of friends maybe make their characters and introduce them into the world that I want to play them through. So,
I'm just in love with this idea that you're merging these two. I almost want to call them universes. I suppose that's redundant phrasing here. You're merging the podcast with this narrative storytelling for a TTRPG, as you mentioned, filling out your map even, and how that's sort of helping the process. As someone who's gone through that a little bit himself in the last year or so, actually last couple months, our players had just decided in January that we were going to take our TTRPG to YouTube, and that really solidified so many different aspects of it for me, and I think for them too. Simple things like us doing recaps for episodes, putting it into our show follows a very astoundingly awesome Tales sort of vibe. We do Tales from Tomorrow. And so that kind of gave me a narrative voice, I think, in doing recaps and the rest. And I just know my players have loved seeing things materialize that before were just loose games in our heads, but now we're turning into something that they themselves could go click and enjoy going back to. Yeah. So when you're talking about taking this rich universe you've already begun to establish for 4+ years in the podcast, and now you're looking to fill that out with more life. You mentioned another game being run. Is that in a similar space? And I'm so sorry if you just said that. It may have just scooted right out of my head. But where is that other... is it a Fallout TTRPG being hosted in the house, you said?
No, it's just a regular Dungeons and Dragons RPG that my roommate's been running. He originally ran one campaign of it and then kind of shifted us into a new campaign in the Vecna Eve of Ruin campaign. So
that sounds fun. That sounds fun. My great awakening to all of TTRPG really did come with Baldur's Gate 3. I don't know if that's cliche nowadays in the community, but I had no friends that played TTRPGs when I was growing up. It just never happened organically. But whenever, I guess in college, gave one attempt at D&D, but I think, Baldur's Gate's success, it brought a lot of people around. And oddly enough, for me, it was an Instagram ad that told me about the Fallout TTRPG by Modifius, and it just seemed like a perfect marriage. I was like, I know this universe. I can work with this. I'm not having to learn. The Forgotten Realms is very cool. I really like it, but it can be intimidating to learn all of those different races and classes and the rest, and to tell it from a GM perspective. So I wanted to ask, I think you've sort of already mentioned it with the Winter of Adam campaign. You are using Modifius's 2D20 then, is that correct?
Yep, I'm using those materials just because I feel like it's very easy for me to kind of lay it out and read it out. I got to finally play a little bit of it. A friend of mine was running like kind of an online game on Discord for a couple weeks. And I was able to hop in and kind of learn how combat goes, how it flows. And I feel like with my friend group and how much they love playing regular Dungeons and Dragons, I feel like they could get really into something like this very easily.
That is, I'm so glad to hear that. We as well use the 2D20 system, and it's just been such a good experience. And I don't know if you're already over there, but their subreddit is just phenomenal. There's a ton of great resources there.
Oh yeah.
So for anyone out there listening who's looking to get into it, it's very deep. And of course, it's one of those TTRPGs that encourages you from the very start to add and subtract any rule sets that you want, make this very much about your incursion into the Wasteland. So, have you, even just in the early stages of thinking about this, have there been any sort of challenges or sort of standout ideas when adapting your podcast theme to an actual kind of living world that you're building for the players as well?
Yeah, I mean, for me, the biggest challenge is, yeah, with so little known about Ronto in like the established Fallout lore, kind of coming up with my own lore and everything has been very interesting. Um, and kind of also figuring out, because a lot of the stuff that takes place in the Fallout world and even in stuff like the RPG, like the TTRPG, um, there's a lot of involvement of going into vaults and kind of coming up with reasons for there to be vaults that no one knew about, or that may not have been numbered officially, has been kind of its own little challenge, coming up with enough reasons to have a couple extra vaults kind of hidden around the city and in the region, stuff like that. So like just kind of taking what's already been established kind of in the world and being able to go, okay, where can I have fun with it? Where can I go, okay, I know this has been established, but what if I do this? To be able to integrate it into the RPG has been the biggest challenge right now.
I can see it, and it's. I find there to be a lot of fun in taking established lore and trying to riff on it in a way that is respectful. That's sort of always something that's
Yeah.
going on in my mind, and I can already see that come out of your podcast already. You got a lot of a blank slate up there to work with, and I don't know if you
Oh
noticed. I
yeah.
mean, I don't know if this is any kind of deep cut. We're all Fallout nerds here, but with the TV series, I believe we saw that there is a specific vault up in Canada, not in the Ronto region, I
Yeah.
don't believe. So, did you have any thoughts on that? Having kind of maybe one of the first official vaults up there confirmed? I like this idea that you were talking about non-numbered vaults and sort of secret ones. Are those
Yeah.
things at all interplaying in your mind?
They most definitely are. Like the just knowing that there's at least one that was already confirmed before the bombs dropped, is very interesting and definitely kind of a plot point that I'd love to hit on either in the podcast or in the RPG game. Just because I think it could be a lot of fun to try to kind of, unless they ever establish what kind of thing it might have gone on there, see if it was an interesting experiment or if it was a control vault or not. I think that could be a very interesting thing. And like, even then, if it was an experiment, what experiment could they possibly be holding in a vault? I think geologically wise, I think it's actually kind of like located somewhere in like Saskatchewan, so kind of the prairies, which are joked about for really not having much. Um, so it'd be intriguing to see what could be going on there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point that we don't know. We saw a bunch of lights on a wall sort of board and no discerning numbers or other identifying information.
Yeah,
There's the open-ended question that, maybe those are just like you said, the control vaults, the very well
yeah,
established and promised to succeed. We
yeah,
don't know. We don't know. I think that's the fun about Fallout is how we learn about the universe, that we go into it having such a tiny view of what we understand, but through those rich notes and audio tapes and the rest, that's what begins to fill in our gaps. And so, yeah,
yeah,
creative liberty goes to you. And even if someday they come out and they give some definitive ruling, I think that's the beauty of being flexible in this sort of fandom, is recognizing that creators of any kind, whether they're writers or producers, podcasters, the rest, we're all just here for fun, right? We're all here to have a good time
yeah,
and to expand our passion and to share it with others. So maybe that segues into one of our final questions. I know we're getting a little tight here on time towards the end,
yeah.
but have you gotten any reactions from fellow Canadian Fallout fans about this? If they don't know about it already, they certainly should.
I've gotten a few. There's been a couple I've even connected with and had good chats with. Wanted to like meet up, work together on things. Um, I joined a group here in town that is the Canadian Podcast Awards, that got to help me with promoting back in March. We had our local Toronto Comic Con, and I got to promote both of my shows at the table for the podcast awards, which was so much fun. I got to interact with so many Fallout fans. It was the most fun to have someone walk by in a vault suit and just shout out, "Hey, Vault Dweller," and have them come over, and I got to tell them about both of my shows, give them some bottle caps. I did like a character creation thing where they could randomize a character that I could put in either show. And even just doing it one day, I got to come back the second day and had people saying, "Oh yeah, we heard you were here. We missed you yesterday and wanted to come back." So it's been really nice. I've started to find the community through both podcasting and Fallout.
Dang, well deserved. First of all, gotta say that's just gotta be very rewarding. And I'd be buzzing. It just must be such a high to have that kind of interaction. And I mean, even though again we're just doing this digitally, I feel very much the same. Like just seeing. I know I started the episode with it, but it's great to bookend it with it. It's just to say it is so easy to have great pieces of art get lost among the shuffle of the internet. That is our largest challenge as creators, is how do you find, or maybe even more specifically, how does the audience out there find you? Fallout is so rich, but we also just have so much noise on platforms. Not to say that that's a bad thing inherently. I mean, there's a lot of people creating and that's good, but it's also algorithms don't always send people the content they want. Again, I tend to find shows that I adore on YouTube and then never get recommended that thing ever again, even though I'm subscribed. So that's what we're trying to do here, is at least, for anyone listening to Vault Broadcast, we want you, and we're going to give you just a moment here. Go subscribe, follow, and do it on multiple platforms if you got the chance. Don't be shy about hitting that free follow button on Instagram, YouTube, podcast players, and the rest. Support our guests here, because it's just rich, beautiful content coming your way. Which maybe one of these final ones is, how do you balance doing all that you do? I'm going to pull this up for people on the side, but Voice in the Static Production, you've got quite a bit of, let me see, is that? Yep. You got quite a lot on the old link tree over here. How do you do your work between TikTok and Instagram? That's a balance I'm always struggling with. If you got any insights, my ears are wide open.
Yeah. TikTok is the one I struggle with the most, just with so much of what I do being purely audio and not as much video content. It is hard for me to come up with what to post there. Sometimes I'll post fun little creative things, or crafting or sketches. I think most recently, I tossed up the first episode of Double Double Radio with just the thumbnail art. Or I think one of the things I've expanded into as well is bringing a bit more of my personal self into a lot of these things, so that people can get that glimpse and they can see, oh, you're a good Fallout creator, you're a good Wasteland creator, but also you're this guy who has his own adventures on his own as well. So I think bringing a lot of that in has also helped. I have my video where I crafted the Nuka-Cola wind chime that is depicted on that original splash art from Fallout 4 and on the GM screen. I realized I had an old tin can and just sat down, attached a bunch of caps to it.
That is so cool. That is so cool. And honest to goodness, I mean, I'm just over here baffled because I didn't even notice that before. In all the time of seeing that image, just never noticed it. And I'm a Nuka-Cola lover, of course. Yeah. That is adorable.
Yeah.
That is such a
It kind of hangs behind my computer monitor here at home now, too. Just because I don't really have a porch to hang it on, unfortunately. The downside to living in a basement apartment.
That's where we're broadcasting from right now. So
Yeah.
I definitely feel you. There's not a lot of wind down here to get the
Yeah.
chimes blowing.
Oh yeah.
Do you have, speaking of props, any particular props or kind of even scenery that helps you channel your creative energy? I mean, I think that's something that I don't think about consciously a lot, but I do have it. Like I like to, before our TTRPG days, I usually set the day aside that I'm listening to a lot of Fallout music, and I might watch some lore videos on YouTube. How about yourself? Anything like that that gets your creative juices flowing?
I've got tons. I do like to sit and listen to lore videos. Like I'll usually have some lunch and just put on a lore video or something on in the background on YouTube. But it's in terms of like my actual like workspace, I can't really move my camera around much to show it, but recently my partner moved in with me and we rearranged kind of the living space, got like a new desk and everything, and that resulted in me taking one corner of the room to turn into what I've called the bunker corner, where I've put up like metal signs from different Fallout stuff. I've got shelves with Pop Funkos and other figurines. I have a shelf with all of my bobbleheads right above my monitor, so that I can kind of look at them whenever I want. I've got a Nuka-Cola bottle. I've got special posters. I think the one thing that I really love having on hand is just a couple of bottle caps. So whenever I'm sitting recording, especially if I'm recording just for fun for a day, I'll sit there and like I'll just like fidget with a bottle cap. Especially if I'm like if I feel like a line needs to be improvised, I'll just sit and like fiddle with bottle caps or a trinket or something while I think about what I'm gonna change the line to.
I get that. I'm that way with some of the Fallout 2D20 dice. Usually have some of
Yeah.
those here on the table, and I'm often this is not one of them. I got this one low off of Amazon. It's just a bunch of faces for randomizing NPC interactions. Haven't really used it, but I love the look
Nice.
of it. And I'm a guy that sits here and I twiddle that around. And
Yeah.
I gotta ask, because I'm seeing this out of the corner of my eye on your TikTok here. What is this gorgeous TTRPG character? Oh, sorry, my audio is way too loud on that. But does Kyle know how to use the internet? There we go. This is gorgeous. What is this, and are they widely available?
So this was the first version. I am working on an updated version where I was sitting because for Welcome to the Waste, I make zines. I make a zine every year to celebrate the anniversary, and I put in my own content and stuff, print them at home, staple them together, all that kind of stuff. And one day I was sitting there and I went, "Oh, I'm going to do that with a character sheet." And I felt like I love the character sheet for the that Modifius did. It's a wonderful two-sided sheet, but I was like, I feel like I could expand on that and make it look kind of fun, make it kind of look in universe. So I started working on this character booklet that can be something that the players can have, where they can kind of like, if they get a perk card, they can stick it inside. They can keep track of their stats in like a bigger way. Because I find, especially with like D&D character sheets, after a while I write so tiny that I can't make out what I wrote 2 sessions ago anymore. So having a little more space to like fill those things out and flip to it and look back was just something that I was like, that could be useful and kind of fun. I know I posted the link to it originally over on my Patreon, but I have been looking to make that a more publicly available link, especially once I've finished the design on the revamp. Once I finished the revamp, I was actually going to post it on the Fallout 2D20 subreddit.
That is amazing of you to be so willing to share it, because I gotta say, it's gorgeous. Like you mentioned, the Modifius sheets are very nice, but I'm getting a feeling while I'm watching this video play, and it's that character sheets are nice, but they feel vulnerable or maybe even a little incomplete because they're just a sheet of paper. They can be easily damaged, folded, thrown, and whatever. It's lost, ripped. But when you've got something that actually closes, like a zine in the sense that, I mean, it feels more like a journal. It's giving me that vibe. You were saying you could put perk cards directly into it. I mean, you chose very gorgeous imagery there, the laser rifle and such. It it just feels like something I'd be very proud of. Like it feels, maybe that's what it is. Maybe it takes it from being a character sheet to a little bit of a character diary. And it just feels a lot more personal seeing it in this way.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
And like,
2 thumbs up.
Thank you. Well, one of my friends actually, a longtime dear friend who has kind of been with both of my shows since the very beginning, was one of my first subscribers on Welcome to the Waste, and a very dear friend. They go by the Nuka Lounge. They post a lot of Fallout content. They're an artist. I'll probably send them your way as well.
Please.
They are a wonderful human being, and when I put up the character booklets, they sent me a photo 2 days later. They went and got them professionally printed and stapled together so that they could give them for playing their own home game. And I gotta say, the moment I saw a photo like that come up from a friend of mine doing something like that, I was walking to work and just started crying tears of happiness, seeing something like that. I thought it was so sweet and so lovely.
Absolutely. I mean, honestly, while you were explaining the creative process behind it, the thing that kept coming into my mind was like, I was like, if I had these, I'd definitely be mailing these out to my players. Like there's just, it's always been a dream of mine, especially as things take off and grow more for our TTRPG. I'm really trying and hoping to be able to afford, the simple things of sending out things to players. I have this little dream in the back of my mind that someday I'd start sending them kind of little, like maybe almost cryptic hints about the upcoming arcs of the show. Like if I could find whatever it is, I mean, I just struggle to do it off the top of my head, but any kind of little thing here and there, whether it be little stickers or something like that. There's also out there, I mean, a great little journal that someone on Etsy makes that has all the different, like, Astoundingly Awesome Tales magazine covers and stuff, and those are journals. And so I just think this stuff is so cool when people are bringing our fantasy world in our head and also our digital world, they're bringing it into the physical like that. And as prop collectors and lovers of it, just means an awful lot. Something tangible to have your stories be a little protected. And so you are welcome to send people our way for other guests and friends of yours. And I'd actually like to give this time to you at the very end for 2 things. First of all, why don't you tell us if there's any other creators you'd like to just shout out in general? No pressure, and we're not asking for a huge list or anything, but give us some names like that you enjoy and people you might want to share alike with. But the next thing right after that, promote the heck out of your content. I've got your link tree up here on the side, but first off, start us off with who do you like these days? What are some pieces of content or creators that you go to often?
Some of my favorites, obviously my friend, the Nuka Lounge. Vault Nostalgia is another great one. He's one of the ones who is also a Canadian Fallout fan, who I love every interaction I've had with him. He posts some really hilarious content, does a lot of really good videos on TikTok and Instagram, has a massive Fallout collection. He is also one of the people who really enjoys the fact that I have one of the 6-foot tall Vault Boys. And who knows, maybe one day he'll get a photo with my specific Vault Boy. I also really love, there's a content creator from the UK, goes by the name Crazy MCR Angel. She is so lovely. I've sent her some stuff. She recently did, I think it's a Nukatron cosplay. So like the walking Nuka-Cola vending machine. And it looks so cool. It's so much fun. And those are some of the big ones that I find myself constantly going back to. as well as your content. Actually, I really like. So
I did not expect that kind of shout out in there. So thank you for
yeah,
that. That's very kind. That is very kind. Hey, this is a passion project completely. It is a grassroots thing. We just, I don't know. I've only started really making public Fallout content, like I think I mentioned, sort of in January of this year, and I knew we were always going to have a little bit of maybe a harder time getting a TTRPG to be seen by a lot of people, because as much as I go, and I love watching people's TTRPG actual plays. I am very much
yeah,
put those on in the background, give them 3 hours of YouTube watch time,
yeah.
help those numbers, and I just crunch my own work on the side while I'm doing it. And so, that's what Vault Broadcast here was, something we really wanted to help remedy all of that, connect everyone together. So thank you for that list of names. And if any of those people wind up listening to this episode in particular, sound off below. Let us know. Hopefully other listeners can click on directly to find you. But we want to talk for just a brief moment about your link tree here. Let me pull that right back up on the side, because you've got some great work people need to go and check out. But I'll let you go ahead and do a little promo, and then I got to ask you about that 6-foot vault boy before I let you go. That is the final question. But you got
Absolutely.
Instagram and YouTube and TikTok and more. So if someone's coming to your content for the first time, where do you send them first?
So, my best suggestions. So, yeah, my link tree is listed under Voice in the Static Productions, which is a kind of nickname of my own creation. It's actually one of my many tattoos. It's something that I kind of came up with doing poetry for the Wasteland. So I'll usually send them there. That has links to both shows. It's got links to Double Double Radio, to Welcome to the Waste, as well as all of their Instagram and socials, as well as the poetry albums that are out. And if they really like my stuff, I'll point them towards all the other stuff that Voice in the Static oversees. I kind of came up with it as a moniker to oversee both these productions as well as future projects. I've got a couple different ideas for some other shows in the future that are their own things. Maybe a zombie show sometime in the next year. Who's to say? But yeah, I also have I've got a merch shop that I think I need to update. The old one was on hiatus, but there is a new one that I just recently launched through Bandcamp. And I've got my Patreon, where I occasionally send out fun advanced look goodies here and there. So
That is a lovely list for people to go and explore. And again, we will have that in the description. However you're catching this, whether it's from Spotify to Apple Podcasts to YouTube itself, you can check out the description. And we should also be releasing a Substack blog article along with this. So again, we'll have nice links to everything for Edward's content here. And you got to go get subscribed. Everyone's a personal recommendation from me, a guy who's planning on binging these for a long while to come. And Edward, you'd be welcome. We'd be thrilled to have you come back through here in the future. Again, This is an open door sort of place, especially if you have really, truly, anytime you have something that you really want to promote in particular. We have contact information for each other already. So if you are launching a new season that you want to hype up, or even if you just want to shoot the shit about cool Fallout TTRPG stuff someday, that is an open door for you.
Absolutely.
You just need to give me a little ring or knock on the email. And this Vault Boy, let's talk about. You have a 6-foot Vault Boy, did I hear?
Yes. It was a prize that I won. How many years ago now? I think just before the pandemic, maybe the year before. So about 6 years now. I have had this Vault Boy. So around when Fallout 76 came out, they were releasing all of those cool prop replicas, like the plasma rifle, the plasma pistol, all that kind of stuff. The build it yourself Pit Boy, which I have, and building that was certainly a time. Got very frustrated closer to the end, but built it, and it's a lovely little prop piece. But I kept going and buying them at the same GameStop here in town. And it got to the point where management there would reach out to me when they got new stuff in,
Wow.
and go, "Hey, we got this new thing in. Do you want to come get it?" And I go, "Absolutely, see you in half an hour." Um, and after a while, because they were getting rid of some of their big standees and stuff, I was in there buying something, and one of the managers said, "Hey, we're doing a contest, supporting food banks. Bring in 2 items of canned food, and each 2 items you bring in, you get a ballot to win the giant vaults. It's the Fallout 76 Vault Boy." And I went, "Cool." Went into a dollar store, spent about $20 on 40 cans of food, brought them in, tossed them on the table, and they went, "Cool, we're going to write your information down on, we're going to take your information down on one, and then we'll just sit and copy these onto the other 20 ballots." And I had actually initially thought that a couple weeks went by, and I was like, "Oh, someone else must have won it. Good on them." And then I get a phone call, and they're like, "Hey, do you have a friend with a van to take this out of our store?" And I went, "Are you kidding me?" I went, and they went, "Yes. Also, we have the super sledge in stock." And I went, "Cool, I'll be right there."
Oh my God.
Um, and they helped me pack it up. And even management there was saying, they were like, "Listen, like, you won it fair and square, but we are all actually just so happy that it was you that won it, because we know you're not going to turn around and resell it, that this is going to a home where it's going to be loved." And he is very much loved. I have all of my prop replica weapons stashed around him, and I decorate him like a Christmas tree every year.
Of
So,
course.
yeah.
I mean, I echo their sentiment and say, yeah, if these things, these really cool niche items are going to be in the hands of anyone, let it be in the hands of someone who's so dedicatedly crafting a portion of the wasteland. Like they said,
Yeah.
you hate to see it in the hands of someone who's just going to resell it for some cash. So you well
Right.
deserved. That is a beautiful story
Yeah.
for us to kind of conclude on today, because wow,
Yeah.
just such a rare opportunity. I didn't expect to hear that out of it. I don't know. I thought it was going to be
Yeah.
something more simple, like, well, I bought something when it was listed, but to have won it like that is just, yeah, that feels perfect. So, Edward,
Oh, yeah.
thank you for coming by, or maybe I should even say Grimm Grinner. Thank you for coming by today's show.
Thank you
To
for
everyone
having
out
me.
there, that's enjoying the episode from Vault Broadcast, we hope to present you with many more episodes like this to come. This is just the start for us, and what a beautiful beginning it is. Again, make sure to go check out the links below. We're going to have links to Linktree, and you can go find YouTube and all the rest from it. But just thank you for giving us your time. To you fellow creators
No
out there,
problem.
please, get in touch with us, get in touch with all of us fellow creators. Let's all work together, and let this be our open door call to you, to listeners who have fellow creators that they love like this. Why don't you tag them in the comments below? Leave us some names of people we should interact with, because hey, it's one of those things, all ships can rise together. And I think this earlier story
Yeah.
about your podcasts merging for a single crossover episode and stuff, that's just beautiful, and that's what we want to see more of out there in the wasteland. So
Yeah.
thank you, Edward. I will let you go for today. Have a
Thank you
good
for having me.
rest of it. Absolutely. And like I said, welcome
Have a
back
good rest of the
anytime.
day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Glad to come back anytime. See ya.
Well, Vault Dwellers and Wastelanders, that was the very first interview coming at you from Vault Broadcast here in our vault. We plan on doing many more of these, and we have many guests who have booked for the month ahead. It is only the beginning of June 5th, not even the very first week of the month. We have some great cosplayers, prop makers, content creators, and the rest who are coming up in future episodes. And again, what I said at the end there when I was talking to Edward, I stressed that to all of you. If you have people that you want to see them get interviewed like this, you want to see them come by and just start building something collaboratively with one another, absolutely tag them below. Absolutely leave me some names below. I want to tease that we are going to have call-ins to the show as well. We're getting this service worked out. There's going to be a service that you can send a 5-minute audio message or even send in a text message, and it'll kind of text to speech it for us. But that's opportunities for you to call in and give your thoughts on the Fallout universe, your thoughts on interviews. You could ask, if we get ahead of the schedule where you know people that are coming up next, you could leave us some questions in advance for that. So I might need to get a published schedule for you all. But just keep your eyes open for that. We'll enhance it. We're going to get that out there. Check the description below. But wow, I'm floored. Wonderful time. To everyone at home, thank you so much. Check us out on YouTube. Go check us out in our live streams over on Twitch. Eventually, once we're settled and getting the workflow for these episodes down, eventually these are going to start airing live on a regular basis. This is a new thing for us, so I'm doing it pre-recorded so I could do a post and pre-production to it. But yeah, I just got to say, Edward was lovely. We got Marty coming up here next week. He's already lovely. We had some tech issues with him the other day. Poor guy, he dealt with it with a smile and with charm and finesse. So I am ever thankful to this wonderful community, and I hope you will continue to make it a very reciprocal place. Look, I've got 3 different websites that you should go visit for our content. Again, this is all below, but I just want to tell you, if you go to overseerkyle.com, you can find links to everything I produce, from the Tales from Tomorrow podcast, which is our TTRPG. You can find our Overseers logs, which are campaign diaries that go along with it. You can find some exclusive content up there, our case reviews, our after show decompressions. And then, of course, you can find here the Vault broadcast information, which is just to say you can go to vaultbroadcast.com, and that's going to redirect you straight over to our Substack, where you'll see these episodes. They'll get posted up there with a little rundown. You can go to tftfallout.com, which is the Substack for our TTRPG game. And I should tease you that we're going to have more with the TTRPGs. We have a whole second campaign incubating right now, our summer campaign series, which, as we learned, is going to go way beyond the summer. It's going to be something I need to spread out a little bit more because we had so many people sign up for it. And we've been meeting on a weekly basis with, on average, about 3 players who are going to be joining us. And our very first campaign that's going to kick off in July is called Lost But Not Forgotten. It's going to be an exploration of an unknown mystery vault. So thank you again, everyone that came by. We'll look forward to seeing some of our co-hosts. We're going to get those people coming through. Dark Knight, one of my good friends, is going to come through. I know one of my other friends, Skylar's going to be on there. And also, we just had some great people who volunteered, like people who submitted themselves as fellow creators who've marked down, I'd come by on a weekly basis. So the very last thing I'm going to say before I ramble us to death and back, I will just say the goal of this show will be to spread out to be about a 2 to 3 day a week series. We plan on doing at least 2 interviews a week. We want to make this an open door affair where these people come by and can come by on a regular basis, whether that be monthly, weekly. Perfectly fine with people doing one-off interviews. Maybe they even need to come by more irregularly, like quarterly or something. But we are absolutely looking for people that want to come by. And if you get to using that voice app below, the submission one, we would love to include some of your content at the end. So whether you make some little radio dramas of yourself, admittedly, something to the scale of what we were just talking about, these little 5 to 10 minute little sound bites. For anyone that likes to create stuff like that, you want to send any in, we could plug those in at the very end of the episode as well. So we got big plans. There's even talk of a real physical studio location, our very own vault that we collectively would have control over. That you, if you're someone that's able to subscribe and support the show financially, or even through just promoting it to friends, word of mouth is so powerful. If you can just share out the show, if you feel like you want to become a subscribed member, we're looking at literally building a vault studio where we could host these TTRPG sessions right in there that people from the surrounding area, and maybe even in the future, some just people that want to come by for meetups, we can all hang out there, do some really cool game days and sessions, and it would just be such a nice, dedicated space, something that's really our own. There's great talk already going on that for the people that do some of the first pledging, we're going to do this over on Coffee, ko-fi.com/overseer Kyle. And again, the Substack also has a subscription model to it too. But if you become one of our first subscribers in these ways, before we hit at least about $1,000 a month on it, you're going to get your name up on a physical sort of placard. I'm thinking right now we're going to do one of those nice chalkboards with the hopefully I can get someone to do the beautiful writing and stuff like that. Do a sort of a chalkboard mural for the founders wall. It might change shape a little bit between now and then, but I want to get something physical to commemorate all the people who got in on the earliest parts of this grassroots effort. You donated, did what they could. But just know, even listening to the episodes, it's phenomenally helpful. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. Share it out with friends. If you're on YouTube, be sure to give this video a like, a subscribe, all those things. We got to say it. Give it a like and subscribe. And if you're on a podcast player that lets you rate it, drop us a review. We'd love to see it. If you have the option to type in any text for those reviews, that goes the extra mile too. So look forward to reading those and any comments you leave us. But that's going to do it for today, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our very first interview on Vault Broadcast. Thank you for joining the very first steps into this world before it expands and becomes something even more special. Until next time, Wastelanders, stay safe out there.